Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching What If Naruto was trained by Goku's granddaughter. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
Kakashi was standing in the hospital, and Naruto was staring at him. He had recently asked his sensei to train him after passing the Chunin exam's preliminary round. As he read his book, Kakashi apologized to Naruto for not being able to train him. "So you're going to train Sasuke, that's why you won't train me," snarled Naruto. "Yes, I found someone who would be better than me for you," Kakashi sighed. After pausing for a moment, Naruto turned to face Kakashi and inquired, "Who?" Naruto turned and snarled once more when a voice said, "Me." He turned to Kakashi and said, "Fuck you Kakashi, that was the last straw. You're no different from the rest of this village even after I saved your life from Zabuza when your precious Sasuke wanted to run away in fear, but I saved his life as well, and I thought you were different than the rest of this village, but not only do you play favorites but you also try to give me to someone who only sees me as a demon. That's it, take Sasuke and train him hard. I will find someone myself to train me, and I will not only defeat Sasuke but everyone else in the tournament." He fled from the structure. With a sigh, Kakashi said, "I apologize, Ebuse." Ebuse replied, "He's right, you know, or he used to be. I did see him as a demon, but then after the way I saw him changing Konohamaru I realized that he's not." As he turned a page in his book and turned to leave, Kakashi said, "I will make it up to him later." As he left, Ebuse remarked, "Somehow I doubt you will get the chance to Kakashi." Ignoring the guards and the secretary who attempted to stop him, Naruto ran until he reached the Hokage tower, then he rushed into the Hokage door and slammed it shut. After seeing Naruto, the Hokage, who had been prepared for an attack, became calm and asked, "What's wrong, Naruto, and why did you burst into my office like that?" The Hokage raised an eyebrow when Naruto turned to face him after locking the door, and Naruto responded, "I have a proposal for you, old man." The Hokage replied, "Really, what kind of proposal do you have that would interest me?" With his arms folded, Naruto remarked, "Simple. I have a proposal that will not only help you with your paperwork but also most of the problems in this village." "And how would you be able to do this, and how do you know you can do it?" the Hokage asked, glancing at Naruto. Naruto replied, "Simple. I figured out just you to do all your paperwork at least 2/3 of a time faster than you do now, and I also have had enough of this shit." Naruto never swore in his office, so the third sighed he could embarrass a sailor outside of the office, but he had never done so here. His question was, "What's wrong?" Naruto murmured, "I just had my last straw, old man. I went to Kakashi and asked him to train me for the finals. He not only refused me but tried to give me to someone who has openly admitted that he thinks I am a demon even after I saved his life in Wave. He pulled that stunt on me. I was pissed when I heard he was going to train Sasuke, but when he said he found someone better to train me I gave him a benefit of a doubt. Then when he showed me who it was I made a decision and I told him off and ran here to see you and offer you a deal." The third said, "What is this deal you want, Naruto?" after giving Naruto a dejected look. Naruto stated, "I want two things. I am going to train for the next month privately. I don't want you to worry about me or try and find me. In return I will tell you the jutsu I figured out to beat paperwork. Do you agree?" "What are you going to do?" the third asked, glancing at Naruto. Naruto replied, "I don't know yet. Someone has told me of some things I can do to help with my problems, like weights to increase speed, water walking to get better chakra control, things like that, but I am going to try a few things I have been thinking about as well and see if I can get it to work." "Are you planning to leave the village?" asked the third person. Naruto replied, "Yes, though I will return the day of the finals. I am going one way or another, and it's up to you if it will be considered a personal training trip or a missing ninja, and you won't be able to keep a guard on me forever, and eventually I will sneak away. I have the best stealth in this village as far as I can tell, since I have lead ABNU, Junin, Chunins and Genins, including members of the Inuzaku clan." While pinching his nose, the third said, "Fine, you got a deal." Naruto stated, "The secret to paperwork is Kage Bunshin's. I had already figured out that their memories return to the original, and since they are your clones they would think the way you do. Just dispel them one at a time. I was saving that for when I became Hokage, but I won't become Hokage if I have a mental breakdown from the hate." "Okay. What about the second part of the deal? You said you had a way to solve most of the village problems," the third said, his eyes wide as he considered the situation. Naruto raised his arms that he had been lowering for a brief period and said, "Simple. After the exams, whether I become a Chunin or not, if I defeat every opponent that I face in the exams, I want Sannin travel rights to come and go as I please, so that way when this village shit gets too much for me I can go and blow off some steam. That way when I am not here the town does not have to worry about me." "How do you know about those rights, Naruto?" inquired the third. Naruto replied, I remember that from Iruka-sensei's lessons how the Sanins could come and go as they pleased. With a sigh, the third asked, is that all? After giving it some thought, Naruto replied, yes. The third responds by nodding and saying, alright, your training missions has been approved and good luck. If you beat each of your opponents in the exams, I will also allow you to have Sannin travel rights. As he nods and gestures toward the corner, Naruto says, can I have that in writing and witnessed by him? Two people gasp as a cloak falls and a white-haired man with the kanji for oil on his head plate appears. The third person asks, how did you know he was there, Naruto? Naruto replied, simple, ever since that snake bastard messed with the seal I have been able to detect chakra signatures. Even ones that are hidden. I also smelled the sake on his breath and the scent of shaving cream, meaning that it was most likely a guy. The first don't know who he is, but I figured that if you would allow him to sit and listen to this, then you trust him. You said Orochimaru messed with your seal, the third person said. Naruto replied, yes, but I don't want it undone. He actually did me a favor whether he knows it or not. My name is Jiraiya of the Sannin. Why do you say Orochimaru did you a favor? The third shot asked, glancing at the white-haired man who had come forward. Naruto laughed and replied, simple, when he hit me with that 5-star seal, I think he called it, he inadvertently freed a second person who was sealed to Kyuubi. She was the one who told me what my weaknesses are. Who is she and how do you know that it's not a trick of the Kyuubi? Jiraiya asked, glancing at the third. Would you like to meet her? Naruto asked, glancing at the third. She said that she can prove it, but you would have to summon Emma to tell that she is telling the truth. A white ape appeared and asked, what is it you need of me, old friend? After the third said, very well, I want to know this for myself. He then bit his thumb and performed a few hand signs before slamming his hands on his floor and uttering the words, summoning jutsu. When the third pointed to Naruto, he closed his eyes and the smoke began to dissipate. Then, a girl with black hair, black eyes, and an orange bandana appeared wearing a red shirt and blue jeans. Emma exclaimed, it can't be. How? After glancing at Emma, the third person remarked, you know her, Emma? Everyone's eyes widened when Emma said, yes, though she can't possibly be here, she died nearly 6,000 years ago. Partially correct, Emma, and it's good to see you. Tell me, did we win the battle? The girl sighed. Emma replied, yes, you and the others won the battle, though why don't you remember what happened? The child replied, simple, when I was fighting Captain Ginyu my soul was thrown out of my body in the time stream just as Mirai was, except when he did it somehow a part of my soul was copied in the time stream. Next thing I know is I woke up trapped inside that damn fox Kyuubi, powerless to do anything but watch it destroy. I remember seeing my soul go back into my body when Trunks went postal on Ginyu, forcing him back into his original body, but that was the last thing I remember from the battle. Who's guardian right now, Emma? Emma replied, there isn't one. Dend was the last one, though he sealed his soul to the Dragon Balls at the lookout, making it where whoever was the next to discover them the next guardian, though that was about 400 years after the battle. It's good to see you, Pan. Goku and the others won't believe this, I really should tell them. Pan gave a sigh and stated, okay. I need to let Naruto have his body back now. You said the Dragon Balls are still at the lookout. That's great, that's how I can get my body back. Thanks, Emma, Pan said after Emma nodded. Before he vanished in smoke, Emma turned to face the third and remarked, trust her with the boy, she's stronger than Kyuubi could ever hope to be. Her race when it died out was the strongest in the entire galaxy. Any more questions before I give control back to Naruto? He can hear us, so he already knows all of this, Pan said, glancing at the Hokage and Jiraiya. What did Emma mean by race? Inquired the Hokage. Pan pointed to a tail behind her just before she was covered in smoke and Naruto returned to her previous position. I am only half human. My grandfather on my dad's side and my grandmother on my mom's side were both full bloods of a humanoid-looking race called Saiyans. Both of my parents were half Saiyans. As am I. The only real difference that I know besides our special abilities is that we have these, Pan said. After placing his hand next to his face and shaking it briefly, Naruto blinked, raised his head, and asked, so does that answer any questions? Yes, but why didn't you bring this up earlier? The third person said. Naruto replied, simple, I met her when I was passed out after the seal was messed with by the Hibite. I tried to tell Kakashi, but he was too busy worrying about Sasuke, and then you heard the rest. Besides, I am afraid if we mess with the seal she may have to be forced back into Kyuubi, and I don't want that. It's only temporary though, because she said she knows a way to help me out, though she won't tell me what yet. Jiraiya replied, so you're going to get training from her, huh? Do you need anything? Naruto's eyes glossed over a second and said, no. Pan said she can handle it all once we get where we are going, though she says I need to leave as soon as possible since the Kyuubi's chakra is poisoning me right now. After writing out the agreement and having Jiraiya sign it, the third said, right, Naruto, please be careful, and here is what you wanted. He then made 3 copies and gave one to Naruto, who nodded and said, "Thanks old man, I got to go CYA." He then hurried out of the tower. The third individual replied, "Jiraiya, try and follow him and make sure he's okay. I know Emma trusts the girl but I don't yet." After giving a nod, Jiraiya quickly follows Naruto. After running until he reached the Forest of Death again, Naruto made a 45-foot leap and landed on the wall before continuing into the forest, shocking Anko, who was consuming dango. As she took another bite of her dango, Anko turned to face him and uttered the words, "Damn Gaki." A shout of, "Nimbus," came from inside the forest. As she was ready to go after him, she ran up the wall and watched as a gold cloud of some sort flew into the woods. She leapt to her feet and ran in the direction of the cloud's departure. Naruto had just cleared the wall a short while before, and he was wondering, what now? Pan's voice was saying, "Go a little further in the forest and shout out Nimbus when you see a gold cloud arrive. Tell him your name and tell him to take you to the lookout." After shouting, "Nimbus," and nodding his head, a gold cloud materialized at an unfathomable speed and came to a halt in front of Naruto, who then uttered, "My name is Naruto Uzumaki and I want to go to the lookout." Naruto heard Pan say, "Climb on, sit down and don't scream or move," as the cloud hung a few feet lower. Anko landed as Naruto did, and she exclaimed, "What's going on here, Gaki?" When Naruto turned around and said, "You are the crazy examiner lady. Tell the Hokage I will be back when I promised." The cloud shot into the air like a rocket, carrying Naruto as he screamed. Pan sighed and covered her head before grinning and turning to face the fox. She said, "Just wait, you will get yours." With a growl, the Kyuubi uttered the words, "Whatever monkey." Naruto turned to look around because he thought he heard a scream and an explosion just a moment before. "This is only told to the Hokage," Jiraiya remarked as she leaned next to Anko. "I understood, Anko." Anko nodded as he glanced at Jiraiya. After that, Jiraiya left to return to the Hokage tower. The third asked, "What's wrong, Jiraiya? Where is Naruto?" as he was accompanied by 2 Kage Bunshins completing paperwork when he got back to the tower. "Gone," Jiraiya said. Surveying the area, he flew off into the sky on some weird gold cloud. With wide eyes, the third said, "I understand. I suppose we have run out of options until Orochimaru returns. Kindly keep looking for information about him." The third thought is, "You screwed up, Kakashi, but this might be better or worse." Jiraiya nods and walks away. After the first 15 minutes, Naruto had become accustomed to flying on Nimbus and was genuinely having fun. Naruto soon noticed a small island, but what set it apart was a pole that was almost the size of the island rising into the sky. Nimbus flew up the pole and continued flying past a building with a strange plant growing all over it. Gazing through Naruto's eyes, Pan exclaimed, "Sensu bean plants, more than Korin ever had." That is, as they continued to fly, Pan saw something she never would have imagined. "Naruto, let me take over Aegean for a moment. How did they grow so much?" "That's right, Korin probably died out a long time ago, so his tower is most likely empty." After blinking and saying, "Okay," Naruto was suddenly covered in smoke. Pan then materialized, leapt from the cloud, and said, "Thanks, Nimbus." Pan turned and said, "Hello Mr. Popo," as the cloud glowed briefly before taking off. "It's good to see you again. Seeing you here after all this time surprises me. I already heard from Dend and the others in Otherworld that you had returned." Pan, Mr. Popo said with a smile. "Emma apparently informed them right away after learning the specifics regarding my continued existence because I am a Jenny. I am immortal until another guardian was chosen. I made the decision to continue taking care of things here." "Pan, what do you need?" "I need the Dragon Balls first." Pan said, "I'll be able to tell you what I need once I've made my wish." Mr. Popo nods and says, "Please follow me." A few minutes later, they entered a spacious courtyard where the 7 glowing Dragon Balls were sitting in a fountain. Pan grinned and strode forward, saying, "Awaken from thy eternal slumber. I summon thee forth. Arise, Shenlong." Everyone in the world witnesses some portion of this as the dragon covers the entire planet twice and declares, "You who have awakened me from my eternal slumber have 5 wishes." In Konoha, the Hokage hears screaming and rushes to his window to see the sky dark with storm clouds and a golden light shining in the sky that soon transforms into the body of a dragon. "Talk about your first wish now." "What is that, Kakashi?" asked Sasuke. Kakashi remarked, "I'm not sure. Let it go since it doesn't seem to be bothering anyone. Return to your work." After giving a nod, Sasuke tries to climb even higher. Pan's eyes widened at this. The dragon only had 2 wishes the last time she saw it. Quickly reflecting, she said, "Shenlong, my first wish is to have my true body return to me and allow this boy who owns this body to retain his." Pan appeared next to Naruto, who had fallen on his butt, and Shenlong's eyes glowed for a moment before he said, Your wish has been granted, what is your second wish? Pan stated, I wish for the people I am thinking in my head to be brought back to life and brought here. Two figures suddenly materialized, and Naruto fainted after seeing the Yondaime and a woman with red hair then, although they weren't their typical selves, Goku, Chi-Chi, Gohan, Goten, Vital, Krillin, 18, Dend, Trunks, Mirai Trunks, Vegeta, Bulma, Piccolo, Pan, and Marin all showed up with the exception of Dend and Piccolo. They were all Saiyans. Your wish has been granted, what is your third wish? Shenlong asked. After glancing at Naruto, his parents, and the others, Pan remarked, I wish for him and both his parents to be turned into full-blooded Saiyans like the rest of us. The Minato, Kushina, and Naruto all had tails that popped out of their backs, and Shenlong's eyes glowed once more. What is your fourth wish? Asked Shenlong. Pan stated, I wish for a portal to connect this world to the lifeless doppelganger world that we fought Omega Cell on, fully restored to how it was after all damage was repaired. What is your final wish? Shenlong asked as a door appeared and her eyes glowed. Pan stated, I wish for the Kyuubi that is inside of Naruto to be removed, but all of his energy is to go to Naruto as well as his healing ability to remain with Naruto, and Kyuubi be sealed for the rest of eternity. A mask-wearing figure emerged as Shenlong's eyes glowed and uttered the words, this one is under my power, he must be allowed to die. Shenlong replied, very well, the being known as Kyuubi will be sealed until the day the boy dies. On that day they will fight to decide who will have complete control. Until then it will be sealed inside of you, Shinigami. With a seal emerging on his body, the now named Shinigami bowed and said, I accept your judgment, Shenlong, I will see you, Aegean. He then vanished, a golden flash, and the Dragon Balls flew off in different directions as Shenlong said, your final wish has been granted, I will return to my slumber. Naruto's face twitched and the whiskers on his face began to disappear. Jiraiya was in Konoha, looking at the hot springs, when he was struck by a rock and knocked unconscious later. When he woke up, he noticed something odd about the stone. He could sense a chakra emanating from it. He sealed it into a scroll, deciding to keep it. Tsunade had just placed her last quarter in a machine in a gambling town several hundred miles away. She pulled the handle, and 3 sevens appeared, and the light began to flash. Then, all of a sudden, the machine broke apart, sending a stone flying through it and striking her in the breast. Giving her a purple nipple, Tsunade grabbed the stone and threw it as hard as she could while screaming. Tsunade, Shizune said, I think we should go. Suande looked back and said, okay, let's go, adding, but my winnings. She was writing out a bill for the destruction of the machine while the casino's owner watched. After glancing around, Gohan exclaimed, what the hell? As he approached, Pan said, hello everyone, what's going on here? Vital asked, glancing first at Pan and then at the other Pan. Pan let out a sigh. First off, I guess we better get the name thing taken care of. I guess you can all call me Dora since we were originally named after our grandmother Pandora, so why not have both since they are a girl's name? Pan responded, who are you and why do you look like me? Goku scratched his head and said, well, I did not get a chance to tell you yet, but remember when you and Captain Ginyu were fighting, remember how afterwards you said you felt odd for some reason? The reason was your soul kind of got copied, and this is her, though what's going on I don't know, and I don't know who those 3 are. I'm the Yondaime Hokage of Konoha, Minato Namikaze, and who are you and what's going on? Minato said, standing between his wife and the others and surveying the surroundings. Dora replied, first off, dipshit, you don't have to worry about fighting right now, so calm down. Kushina replied, who the hell are you to talk to my husband like that, girl? Pointing to the unconscious blonde, Dora grinned and remarked, most likely your future daughter-in-law. If I have anything to say about it though, that will be up to Naruto here. Minato, look, Kushina exclaimed as she pointed to Naruto after catching a glimpse of him for the first time. With a wide-eyed expression, Minato asked, is that our son? So that was real about the Kyuubi earlier? Dora replied, yes. Now I think it's time I tell everyone why I brought everyone back to life. That would be a good idea, Dora, said Piccolo. Dora replied, Piccolo, can you still do that memory view technique you did before that last battle? With a nod, Piccolo said, yes, why? Dora replied, I want you to show everyone my memories that I bring up so everyone can see why I want them here to help. Piccolo approaches her and places his hand on her head while holding out his hand in front of him. A massive ball of energy, about 10 feet across, materialized, and everyone began to watch as the final battle took place, followed by Dora waking up inside the Kyuubi, her unsuccessful attempts to escape, and the tailed demons destroying the world and the world reviving as it was called to the survivors. The Great Wars, the Rise of Ninja, and Kyuubi's assault on the Hidden Leaf Village. Her memories then shifted to her observing Naruto's life. Minato and Kushina were now gritting their teeth as they watched their son go through everything up until the moment he left the village to come here. Dora said, "As you can see, the world has gone to hell in a handbasket since we were alive. I originally had planned on just trying to train Naruto here myself in our way of fighting, but after I heard about having 5 wishes, I decided to bring all of you back to help not only in that but also to fix this world." The Z fighters all watched and exchanged glances with one another. Vegeta replied, "I say we blast it to atoms and find a new planet. I have to say that the boy there has what it takes to be a Saiyan, so I have no problem with him joining us." Den stated, "It's my fault. If I had selected a new guardian, then none of this would have happened." Piccolo replied, "No, something happened between the time you died until the tailed demons arrived. That means that whatever it was is to blame." Everyone gasped when a voice said, "Actually you're wrong," and Vegeta responded, "Not you, Agi and Omega." "I'm afraid so, Vegeta," Omega Goku said, standing in his Super Saiyan 4 in a lotus position. "Everything went according to the plan that I had set out all those years ago." Bulma questioned, "What plan?" Omega replied, "Simple Bulma, you all think this is still the Earth, do you not?" Kushina said, "Will someone please tell me what the hell is going on and who all you people are?" As everyone turned to look around. Omega stated, "My name is Omega and I am the guardian of the Dragon Balls. They're what brought all of you back to life and removed the Kyuubi from Naruto there." "What is this all about, Omega?" Goku inquired. All of the Saiyans were wide-eyed when Omega said, "Welcome to what will become Planet Vegeta." Vegeta responded, "But that's impossible." Omega smirked and said, "Nope, it was all necessary for the future and he is the key." Pointing toward Naruto, "Remember when I first appeared in front of you and I said the first shall be last and the last shall be first? I was referring to this exact moment. Naruto here's DNA was already set to become the first Saiyan thanks to the Kyuubi trying to escape through his chakra manipulation. That escape attempt would not only set it up for him to become the first Saiyan but the only one of us to ever go Super Saiyan in our ape form. Why do you all think I had introduced you all to Emma before the battle? During the escape attempt, Naruto's best friend would have used Emma to try and stop Kyuubi and Emma would have bit Naruto. That would have infected the ape genes into his body. A month after that he would have conceived a child with some girl and then he would have destroyed himself in his ape form when he saw the full moon. His child would go and start making the first Saiyans and the rest is history. I have changed the fate of not only our race but that of the entire galaxy by changing time. I was the one who cloned Dora's soul and imprisoning it into the Kyuubi so that she could see the world as it is and then help change the future. I was also the one who had the number of wishes changed for this one occasion from 2 to 5. Vegeta looked at Naruto and remarked, "So he is the one who would destroy himself that I told you about on planet Namek, Kakarot?" Omega nods as Gohan inquires, "So this is why you told us we had to stay on that dead planet and never leave, and I bet it was you who made it where none of us ever had any other children and why we are back to our bodies just like we were for that battle." Omega said, "Yes, you each need to change the future of not only the galaxy but our race. Naruto here is the key now that he along with his parents here are part of our race. It is time for you each to help shape a new future for our race as well as that of the Namekians and Earthlings. We must stop the Cells, Frieza, and others like them from ever coming to creation. We each have the power and skills to do what is needed but Naruto here has the key that will shape us." After Naruto here originally destroyed himself, it forced the people of this planet to change their way of life. Ninjas ceased to exist. The Toad Summons had a legend that he would cause a revolution in this world. He would either change it for the better or destroy it. It also is what made this planet have 10x normal gravity, which it does not now, and also why they went for advancing technology instead of ninjutsu and skills. I have told you all that I can now. I wanted both of you here, Den and Piccolo, to try and start getting this planet straightened out between you both. You have the skills to make it work along with the rest of the Saiyan race. Farewell, and I hope everything works," and he faded from view. When he opened his eyes and saw everyone's faces, Naruto moaned and rubbed his head, saying, "What happened? It feels like my birthday or something." He sarcastically remarked, "Great, I'm dead," after glancing around and landing on Minato and Kushina. Dora pointed to them and said, "No, you're not Naruto. I used the Dragon Balls and brought you dad and your mother back to life." When Naruto felt a tap on the back of his neck, he tensed up and asked, "Why do I have a tail?" "You now like everyone except the 2 green guys. They have names, but they are friends," Goku said as he stepped forward. "Pan, I need to get started training. I only got a month," Naruto said, nodding. With a gesture toward her face, Pan said, "I'm Pan and the one you called Pan before is now called Dora. You can tell the difference because I have this scar on my cheek and she doesn't." Naruto raised his eyebrows and said, "Okay, so let me see if I got this straight. My parents are the Yondaime and some lady I never seen before. There are now two pans, but one is called Dora. Now I am now something called a Saiyan that gave me a tail, and there are two green guys and a whole bunch of others I think would be Saiyans." Bulma replied, "Yes, well, I guess I will work with this dream. At least it is not another nightmare about the villagers." Naruto nods, then smacks his lips before Vegeta hits him with a ki blast, saying, "This is not a dream, brat." "Don't hit high," Minato said as he stood in front of Naruto, but he was punched in the stomach, sending him flying back about 20 feet. When Kushina noticed this, she charged Trunks, who struck her husband. She was then kicked in the side of the head, which sent her flying over and striking Minato. This infuriated Naruto, who charged forward to strike Trunks, who ducked every punch and kick like they were nothing, only to kick Naruto against a wall and begin beating him. With a sigh, Bulma approached Trunks, stopped him, and pulled him away. As Naruto's wounds began to heal quickly, everyone raised an eyebrow when he coughed up blood for a brief moment. Naruto said, "Let's try this Aegean," as he stood up. Gohan replied, "I got this. We really need to start training them if we are going to get them up to our level to do anything." As he grabbed Naruto and knocked him unconscious, Piccolo said, "No, I will take him first and use the hyperbolic time chamber. With the wishes we made on the time chamber in the past, it should make training him faster." He then entered the building. "Will someone please explain to me what's going on, and how was that kid strong enough to take out me, my wife, and our son like that?" Minato asked, looking around at everyone as she stood up. "Well, basically we are a race called Saiyans." Gohan sighed and looked around before going on to describe the Z fighters, Dragon Balls, the fight with Cell, Frieza, and the others over the course of the following few hours. Next, we'll talk about Omega Goku and the future. He went on to explain that although the time chamber was now 2 years old rather than 1, they did not age while they were there. He then gave a brief explanation of feeling ki and its application. Kushina and Minato had a slightly better understanding by the time he finished with the comments from the others when necessary, and surprisingly, they had already figured out how to extract their energy, even though they don't have much. The fundamentals of chakra, which turned out to be a less potent form of ki, were then explained by Minato after learning that it was weaker. The Z warriors ignored the others after listening for a while. Alongside Naruto, after waking up in a strange white room, Naruto asked, "Where am I?" as he noticed a green man floating in midair. His response was a gut punch, followed by another, and then another, which sent him tumbling across the floor. Coughing up blood once more, Naruto questioned, "What the hell was that and who are you?" When Naruto attempted to dodge but felt heavy, Piccolo punched him again and said, "I'm Piccolo, your first instructor. Your first lesson is dodging and blocking. I won't stop hitting you even if you fall down, so let's continue." After feeling lighter and then heavier, he started to speak, but Piccolo interrupted him by saying, "If you got time to talk, you got time to fight." Naruto had no other option and attempted to move, but the gravity prevented him from doing so again. "I can't see you," he said as he collapsed. Piccolo stopped and replied, "All right, I will stop a moment from attacking you. I am going to fly around you in a circle. I want you to let your eyes lose focus and don't blink and try and follow my movements. Once I can tell you can see my speed, I will increase it. Do you understand?" "Where are you?" Naruto asked after nodding and getting kicked in the stomach, which sent him further into the white abyss. He then looked for Piccolo and tried to move, but was punched and heard Piccolo say, "You can't move until you can see me." Naruto rose, glanced around, and attempted to let his eyes wander, but he continued to blink. Eventually, he began to see a long green energy trail, but as it grew longer, it became shorter and shorter until he noticed Piccolo suddenly speeding up, and he briefly lost sight of him. Naruto eventually collapsed on the ground, panting and sweating, and uttered the words, "That enough." He kicked Naruto, who landed and fainted, and said, "It's never enough. We have only been practicing for 2 days. Let's continue." Piccolo appeared in front of him. As he picked Naruto up and began to fly farther into the abyss, Piccolo nodded and thought, "He's got great stamina but needs to get better. He also needs to increase his speed. He's only at 10x normal Earth gravity right now. That might work." Soon after, Piccolo saw what he was searching for and threw Naruto into what seemed to be a lightning storm before taking off for the archway to rest, leaving Naruto in the center of the storm. Naruto was soon covered in ice, which melted and caused his skin to burn. He was then struck by lightning, woken up in agony, and attempted to move but was unable. "Let's see how long it takes him to get out of there," Piccolo thought with a sly smile. Naruto was thinking, "Damn it, where are you? Piccolo, help me get out of here." Piccolo flew out to where he left Naruto and sweat dropped after waiting for him to survive the storm for approximately a month. Cage Bunchins, who had tied a kunai to their asses, attempted to outrun the lightning as Naruto ran through the storm, dodging it. To which Piccolo replied, "What are you doing?" I have been trying to increase my speed so I could see you, Naruto said as he turned around. He can't be that stupid, can he? Piccolo thought as he started to perspire. Piccolo replied, alright, cancel those things and let's see how far you gotten. A voice behind Piccolo said, Konoha's secret taijutsu, 1000 years of death. Naruto grinned at each of them and thrust a kunai up Piccolo's ass. As all the cage bunchins began rolling on the ground in laughter, Piccolo shot forward after removing the kunai. Piccolo stood up and sent a ki blast at the clones. Destroying them, he then looked at Naruto and placed his fingers on his forehead as Naruto began to back away. Piccolo fired the beam at him, saying, see you in the next dimension special beam cannon. As he began to fire ki blast at Naruto, who was swerving in and out of the way in an attempt to avoid it, Piccolo exclaimed, oh hell no, you're dead, boy. Although he was actually avoiding the blast, he still felt the painful shockwaves. So Dora, you said you might be my future daughter-in-law, huh? What makes you think that you were good enough for him? Kushina said outside the time chamber. Dora widened her eyes as she said, oh, besides the fact I care for him, brought his parent back to life, got rid of the Kyuubi for him, made his life better and treat him special, no reason. Minato flew past them and struck a tree, knocking Kushina over his head as he was about to speak. If this hadn't happened for the 23rd time, Kushina would have been concerned. Dora stated, he won't be able to do anything against those two at his current level. Hell, even his Hiraishin is not going to work, as we already proved. With a sigh, Kushina uttered, he's stubborn. Dora replied, so is your son. I just hope I can get him to fall in love with me. According to Kushina, you really care for him, huh? According to Dora, I would blow up a planet for him. Thank Dend, you all listened to me to add that auto reset for the door after a month in there if it was blown up, Krillin said as the door to the hyperbolic time chamber suddenly exploded, sending everyone running. Kushina inquired, so how long is a month in there compared to time out here? About 31 minutes, 60 minutes, 24 hours, 365 days, 2 years, 24 months, 24 hours, and 60 minutes, 18 said. After Kushina nods and returns to his seat, the door erupts once more 31 minutes later, prompting Goku to inquire, does anyone know why the door keeps getting blown up? Dend made everyone stare at him when he said, Naruto pissed Piccolo off. So how do you know that, Dend? Minato inquired. I asked Piccolo if everything was okay when he blew it up the first time. Dend said he sent me a picture of himself preparing to set Naruto on fire under unusual circumstances. Why? Dora inquired. Dend stated, it seems that Naruto stuck a kunai in Piccolo's reproductive organ. According to Kushina, so Naruto stabbed him in the nuts. No, you see, there are no males and females in my race, Dend said. We lay eggs, which emerge from our anus, and we are asexual. He stuck a kunai in Piccolo's ass, Bulma said, snickering before bursting into laughter as the others began to laugh. I said, that's Hillary's. So how's Naruto doing, Dend? Gohan inquired. Everyone stopped laughing and turned to stare at the green man when Dend said, I think he's almost as fast as you, Gohan. Observing everyone's expression, Kushina questioned, what's wrong? It's nothing. Vital stated the fastest of all of us is Gohan, flying here at full speed. I'm afraid that's his foot speed, Dend said. He is still a novice pilot, shocking everyone once more. So how fast are you, Gohan? Inquired Kushina. Gohan replied, the last time I was tested I think it was around. I put an armband on him to record how far he flew in an hour at top speed, Bulma interrupted, adding his speed was just over 1,000 miles per hour, causing everyone to consider the blonde who was inside the time chamber. That's faster than the speed of sound. Come on, Piccolo, we have been doing this for what seems like months, Naruto said, dodging another blast. When will you settle down and accept my apology? With a sigh, Piccolo landed and said, come on, child, you did good. As he walked over to Naruto, who was covered in sweat and tired, suddenly his hair fell down and he passed out, and Piccolo's eyes got wide and said, no way. In reality, he forgave him about a week later, but he maintained the charade to make him work harder. He picked up Naruto and flew him back to the lookout, where he chased him away for almost 2.5 months, setting traps with food that made him dodge attacks to eat, but never letting him sleep for more than 4 hours. After he passed out, he noticed that Naruto's body was leaner and his clothes were baggy. He said, free food, as they landed on the gateway, and Naruto woke up right away. He looked around and asked, where? Go take a bath and I'll have some clothes for you when you get out, Piccolo said with a laugh as he left Naruto. He said, I'll prepare some food as well. Naruto complained, took a long bath, and passed out. When he woke up, he discovered a plate of rice and a brand new orange outfit. He smiled, put it on, and ate the food before leaving and seeing Piccolo sitting in midair. How do you do that? he asked. As Piccolo put it, "Come sit here and I will teach you." Naruto did, and Piccolo, who smirked as he observed the clothes grow increasingly heavy, soon started to explain that you have to focus and bring it out while you're relaxing. With his eyes closed, Naruto was unaware of it, and after focusing for a while and attempting to extract it, he managed to do so after 2 weeks. "Hey Piccolo, how come you never eat and always drink water and offer me water but won't let me eat?" was the final question Naruto asked, the one that had been bothering him. "Your body is weak, telling you that you need to eat constantly," said Piccolo, grinning to himself to go longer without eating. "You must make your body and mind ignore hunger as you would pain." "I understand," Naruto said, nodding. "I have a long way to go yet." Piccolo laughed uncontrollably inside and thought, "Take that boy, you put a kunia in my ass, and I starve a Sanin. In the end, we each get ours, hee. With a sigh, Naruto got up, stripped off his clothes, and tossed them to the ground. When it created a massive crater, he raised an eyebrow and inquired, "How much is in that?" With wide eyes, Piccolo added, "Only about 200 pounds, why?" As he ran across the white void, Naruto shrugged and said, "I'm going to try and get a kink out of my body, so I will be back later." That has almost 4 tons in it, along with the other 4 tons in his pants, and 2 tons in each of his arms and leg weights. Piccolo thought in shock, "That's 20 tons. And he had to endure additional gravity as he wore it out in the empty space while I sat on the tiles in the archway. What on earth is he?" As Naruto ran through the emptiness, he passed through one storm and continued to move farther and farther away. While meditating in the lotus position, Piccolo gradually saw a vision. Piccolo sat there in concern now. Naruto had been gone for almost a year, and he had not returned for food or anything else in that time. Piccolo attempted to leave, but the chamber door would not allow it, and he flew until the pressure became too much for him. He was about 6 feet tall and extremely thin. It seemed like all you saw was an afterimage of him. With each step he took, the figure was like something out of a nightmare. With cold eyes and a manner of walking that sent shivers down Piccolo's spine, he was looking at him, but he could not make out anything about him. "This is the Saiyan race's future," a voice said. "They will eventually acquire this power. Will they be the defenders of justice or the killers of billions?" Piccolo snapped out of his lotus pose and turned to face Naruto, who was dozing on a bed with 30 empty bowls next to him. With a sigh, Piccolo returned to his vision. He trained Naruto for almost the next 2 years, teaching him how to meditate, sense ki, dodge, speed, and conceal it, as well as how to use the special beam cannon and ki blast. Since that day, when he thought he saw Naruto's hair drop, he has never seen it do it again, so he does not know if he is a Super Saiyan or not because his hair is already like that. Perhaps this is why his hair turns gold to match his. Naruto has also learned patience, but Piccolo has discovered that Naruto had outstripped him. He had actually cut holes in the outfit, filling half of it with air pockets, so that his body would only have a total of 2 tons, which was still amazing, but after that, his body would not go any higher, even after giving him new outfits. He pondered what everyone else had done for an entire day outside the time chamber, since today was the last time they would be in here together for some time. The fact that he was wearing a dark blue shirt and white pants with a tail around his waist made everyone smile when Piccolo and Naruto left. As he left, Goku inquired, "So how is he?" "I have nothing left to teach him," Piccolo remarked. "Everything I can teach him, he already knows." Because of his speed, everyone, including Piccolo, was taken aback. Naruto grinned and said, "Thank you, Piccolo Sensei." "How did you get so fast?" he inquired. "What do you mean?" Naruto asked. Blinking, he looked down and said, "I didn't want to trip over these new shoes, so I walked slowly over here." Goku glanced at Naruto before turning to face Vegeta, who nodded. Piccolo shook his head and said, "Yeah, you do have something to do. You must increase your book smarts." As she dashed through the portal to the dead doppelganger Earth, Chi-Chi grinned and exclaimed, "To New Earth." Naruto inquired, "What was that about?" "Just do as she says and follow her," Gohan said as he rubbed his head in fear of the impending disaster. He said, "Trust me, you will live longer." Dora said, "Come on, Kushina." As Naruto nods and enters the portal, she grabbed the redhead and they entered the time chamber together, saying, "We are next for the time chamber." "So what's up, Piccolo? You look spooked," Goku said. "I'm not sure," Piccolo said. "In there, I had a vision. It was strange when I saw Naruto, who appeared to be a walking god. I heard a voice predicting whether the Saiyan race would be heroes or monsters in the future. His sudden movement was similar to my vision, albeit a little slower." Upon nodding, Goku asked, "So how good is he?" "I believe he went super on me once, but I can't be positive, and it didn't happen again, or at least not that I could tell," Piccolo said. "I also don't believe I ever pushed him to the limit the majority of the time. It was like battling a ghost. He has the capacity to manifest usually. Any harm he sustains is essentially repaired in a matter of minutes. It healed in 5 minutes after I struck him with a full-power special beam cannon. He went to sit down and unwind, saying, if I didn't know any better, I would swear that I was preventing Cell from healing and improving so quickly. I can't wait to get a crack at him, Vegeta said. Goku nods as he considers, though why'd I think that there is more going on here than the creation of the Saiyan race? Minato thought, what is really going on? As he stopped using his chakra in his ears to dodge Trunks and Goten a short distance away. Additionally, they don't seem to know much. Naruto trailed behind Chi-Chi as she landed at a school and entered a library. Chi-Chi said, I want you to start reading while I go start cooking, as she walked away, and Naruto was astounded by the size of the library. With a smile on his face, Naruto stalked the library with Cage Bunchins and began reading as many books as he could. When she saw Naruto sleeping, 12 hours later, Chi-Chi, carrying a massive buffet of food, walked into the library with her back to Naruto and said, sorry it took me so long, but I had to take food to the ones on the lookout also. She then grew a vein and stomped over, hitting Naruto while yelling, wake up. With a groan, Naruto awoke and questioned, what? Why are you not reading? Chi-Chi inquired with a moan. Naruto uttered, done already. I don't think so, Chi-Chi said after letting out a sigh. Naruto refilled the library with clones before declaring, anything they learn I learn when I cancel them, so I finished already. Eyes shining, Chi-Chi said, teach me that, please. When Naruto sees the food, he nods and asks, may I eat first? After Chi-Chi nods, Naruto approaches and begins to eat a little while drinking water. After half a plate, he says, I'm done. This causes Chi-Chi to spit out her food. Chi-Chi inquired, how are you? You didn't eat much. Naruto replied, well, Piccolo told me that I had to ignore hunger like I do pain, so I only eat around 4 ounces of food and then water, and that's all. You're not leaving till you eat this all, Chi-Chi said, blinking repeatedly. With a groan, Naruto began to eat more, and then a smile spread across his face as he continued to eat. As Chi-Chi watched Naruto eat, she was shocked, not because of how much he was eating, but because of the way his body began to change with each bite. His muscles grew fuller, his skin healthier, and he appeared to age by a year in front of her, making him appear older. Naruto, how old are you, not counting 2 years in the time room? Chi-Chi asked. According to Naruto, 15. Why? Chi-Chi responded, why are you older than the others that were in your class then? I failed twice before making me 2 years older than them, Naruto said, his eyes darkening for a moment. Why? Chi-Chi reasoned, that indicates that his body is genuinely trying to repair the harm caused by improper eating and make him appear his actual age. Fascinating. When Naruto asked, what's wrong? She snapped out of her reverie. Oh, I just noticed how handsome you look, Chi-Chi said. I understand why my granddaughter likes you, Naruto said, spitting out his food and asking, what? Chi-Chi remarked, did you not know? According to Dora, she wants to be your partner because she likes you. With a perplexed expression, Naruto questioned, what do you mean, mate? Well, let me tell you, dear, Chi-Chi said, this is how it is now that you're a Saiyan. You'll need to trust your instincts. You are a lifelong partner, one partner per lifetime. The male mate also perishes if the female mate does. But what exactly is a mate? I mean, asked Naruto. Is it like your girlfriend or something? With a perplexed expression. Chi-Chi murmured, basically it means she's your wife, except you don't have to go through a wedding to be mates. To which Naruto replied, then what do you have to do? Simply put, when you find someone you like and want to be your mate, you bite them on the neck enough to draw blood, Chi-Chi said, pulling her hair to the side to reveal her neck. Both of you will faint and witness the other person's life. If the person you selected retaliates, you are mated for life. If the marks are still present when you wake up, your mating is void and you must find a new partner. If the marks are gone and you don't share your mate's memories. Naruto inquired, does that go for only Saiyans or regular humans also? At first, it would work for normal humans, but it was not as strong of a connection. Chi-Chi sighed. Bulma and I became Saiyans because we wished on the Dragon Balls that our life mates would become full-blooded Saiyans when we found them. In order for any of your children to find their soulmate and become Saiyans, the others simply asked to be made one. So you're saying Dora wants to become my life mate? Naruto nodded. Naruto asked, is there anything else I should know? After Chi-Chi nodded. Well, I'll have to consider that. Chi-Chi said, I can't be certain, but I don't think so. After nodding and finishing his meal, Naruto asks, so what now? After giving it some thought, Chi-Chi asked, okay, what exactly did you learn from these books? A lot of history and fantasy stories and some technical stuff, but I'm not sure what they mean too much, Naruto said. Shaking his head, I feel as though I have pieces of a puzzle but not the entire thing. Both of them turned to see Bulma standing there when a voice from the door said, "That's because you do." Naruto inquired, "What do you mean?" Simply put, Chi-Chi brought you to this high school, Bulma said, because you have never seen or heard of some of this stuff, such as capsule technology and that kind of thing. It has advanced features for you to better understand it, you need to learn more. Chi-Chi remarked, so he needs to learn the more basics. With a nod, Bulma said, I know the ideal location, follow me. She walked away. Chi-Chi asked, so how long did it take you to learn to fly? As they both stood up and followed her, soon taking off. About a week after I learned to use ki energy, Naruto remarked. When you consider it, it's funny because it appears that ki energy is similar to the Kyuubi chakra I had, albeit less harmful to my system. It appears that your mind has absorbed the information you read because you mentioned system instead of body and technical instead of knowledge, Bulma said, narrowing her eyes. That's good, in my opinion, but once you have this knowledge, you must use it carefully. We do not desire another cell. So where is this place we are going? Inquired Naruto. Oh, Bulma said, that easy. I'm going to have you organize an army to visit every school and library and see if you can maximize the benefits of this jutsu, because I spoke with your parents and Dora and found out that you don't need to be near your cage buncheons to receive the information. Then Naruto halted his flight and said, so basically you want me to create as many clones and have them go to every place I can to get info. Naruto said, then I can save us all a bunch of time. After Bulma nodded, I learned about this while I was with Piccolo. Then he closes his eyes and lays down in a lotus position in the air, and both women begin to stare at him as his ki energy begins to rise, and then his hair begins to fly up, and then his eyes change color, and then lightning begins to bounce off of him. He puts his hands in a seal and screams, Taju Kagebunnshin no Jutsu. Both women are blown away as an army of cage buncheons appear and take off, flying all around until it seems like the entire planet is covered in them. However, it soon sinks into everyone exactly what was happening, and even though Naruto could fly, his clones were able to free fall for a short while before gravity grabs them and pulls them down, forcing Naruto to stop, blush, and say, oops. He scratched the back of his head and said, I did that before I learned to fly. As she took off again, Bulma nodded and said, well, come on and let's do what I was going to say to do. Bulma, where are we? Chi-Chi asked as they came to a halt after half an hour and descended into what appeared to be a small village. This is a special place called Eden, Bulma said. Capsule Corp was assisting in the construction of an experimental village so that we could enable space travel and construct structures on less habitable planets than Earth. Come on, she said as she entered a massive tower. Bulma grinned and said, in this building there is every known book in the world that had been published up until that time that we created this world with the Dragon Balls. Chi-Chi and Gohan followed, quickly realizing why Bulma had come here. I want you to read everything in these boxes that contain the letter K now. Naruto, to get started, simply take out a capsule, press the button on top, and toss it on the ground. About 100 books will appear in each capsule once a day. We will bring food for you to eat while you study. Naruto inquired, I'm curious about that since these things don't exist in my world. Why are you making me learn them? Chi-Chi stated, easy, we will be using these items because we will be residing there as a clan. But how are mom and dad going to use them? Naruto asked, nodding. That's easy, Bulma said. The majority of this information must be learned by you alone in order for you to communicate with and comprehend Dora. Your parents don't because they are already partners. After shedding a few tears, Naruto remarked, so then they have a bite on their necks. Naruto shook his head and got to work after both women nodded. Now you understand what I want to do, huh? Dora said, glancing at the panting Kushina inside the time chamber. You don't have enough ki energy to attempt a major assault. As she attempted to blast Dora with a ki blast that was batted away, Kushina could only nod. Den said, Minato, could you come here a minute? As he gazed down at the planet outside the time chamber. After successfully hitting Goten, Minato halted and approached Den close to the lookout's edge, asking, what's up? I was just looking at things around the world and I found a few things that bother me. Den stated, I've heard that Naruto and the others, who have one of the tailed demons sealed in them, are going to be pursued by a group going by the name of Adasuki. Additionally, I now know that Konoha will be targeted during the Chunin examinations. Really, sounds interesting, Vegeta said, raising an eyebrow. What are your thoughts, Kakarot? Desire to visit that weakling village and enjoy yourself? I do, Gohan replied. According to Minato, so do I. All right, but what are we going to do? Goku sighed. Oh, I have a former student I want to see, Minato remarked with a smile. Everyone turned to look at Piccolo when he said, not yet. Then Vegeta said, and why not, simply put, how is Naruto going to disprove them if you reveal things too soon? Said Piccolo, who was still in his meditation position. This, in my opinion, ought to wait until the finals. Minato, Den inquired, how do you cancel a genjutsu? You simply place your hands in this position and let out a burst of energy from your body, Minato said. Why? Den stated, the guy who plans to attack is planning to put most of the village under one then, and since none of us knew how to dispel it, I would ask. Well, I'll teach you all how to dispel it then, Minato said, nodding. I appreciate the warning. Mirai looked up and replied, if you would excuse me, but where is the best place to have a sword made on this planet? Upon turning, Piccolo exclaimed, who for? Mirai replied, I want to teach Naruto next how to use swords. After nodding and extending his hands to the side, a sword and energy field materialized. All he has to do is run his blood across it and only he will be able to use it, Piccolo said, tossing the sword to Mirai. Goku asked, what is it, Piccolo? As Piccolo grabbed his head and saw the person from his vision again, walking constantly as an afterimage when he was able to see everyone again, they were all staring at him. I saw the same vision again, Piccolo said, shaking his head. I have no idea why. It's the future, Den stated. I saw it at that same moment as well, but I'm not sure what it means. According to Gohan, we will just have to wait and see. For the remainder of the day, everyone nods and either trains or thinks. Over the course of the following 27 days, Naruto, Kushina, and Minato would each spend one day in the hyperbolic time chamber, learning about the earth in the dead world, followed by a day of rest and meditation. Throughout the entire time, Naruto had been attempting to speak with Dora after learning that she liked him, but he was constantly being ambushed and kept at a distance. The schedule then proceeded as follows: Minato and Gohan together, Mirai and Naruto together, Vital and Kushina, Minato and Goku together, Vegeta and Naruto together, Kushina and Gohan together, Minato and Piccolo, Goku and Naruto together, Kushina has 18. Vegeta and Minato, Vital and Naruto together, Kushina and Piccolo together, Mirai and Minato together, Gohan and Naruto together, Vegeta and Kushina, Dora and Minato together, Naruto with 18. Mirai and Kushina, Vital and Minato, Krillin and Naruto together, Goku and Kushina together, Minato with 18. Dora and Naruto together. But when it came to the final two, Naruto and Dora stayed for 2 days rather than 1, so they spent a total of 4 years there, and their surprise when they emerged was unexpected. Rewind: when they heard the hyperbolic time chamber door open, everyone rushed to see what had happened and why the door had been locked. Sorry it took so long, but some things happened and we had to stay longer, Dora said, rubbing the back of her head, as she left with a smile on her face, leaving everyone in awe of the free-flowing ki energy she was putting off. As he approached, Vital inquired, what took so long, dear? Well, Mom, it's like this, Dora said. In our spare time, Naruto and I struck up a conversation. He asked me what he had been told about my liking him, and I told him because I wanted his confidence. We fell in love after spending a lot of time getting to know one another, she said with a smile. With stars in their eyes, Chi-Chi, Bulma, and Kushina exclaimed, how romantic. When asked where Naruto was, Vital rolled her eyes. He is aware that we have spent what feels like years getting ready for tomorrow, correct? Oh, he's just had to take care of something, Dora said, glancing over her shoulder. Everyone looked at her as Vital, Gohan, and Pan narrowed their eyes. Don't tell me you guys made it. Dora blushed and responded, it's a little more complicated than that. How can it be more complicated than that? Inquired Vital. Everyone turned when they heard the words, Mommy, I beat Daddy eating ramen. A little 4-year-old boy was standing in the door, and everyone's eyes were popping out of their heads. Another voice said, it's only because I let you have half a bowl head start, and even then you only beat me by 1 bite, Miso, in a cool, collected, smooth, and compassionate tone. It can't be, said Piccolo as everyone turned to look. It's him, he said, gesturing to the person inside the door. He was dressed like a Mirai, with the CC logo on one arm and a leaf symbol on the other, with the only real difference being that the back read, born of death, lived as a fox, feared as a demon, and fights as a Saiyan. The man appeared to be at least 18 years old, with no body fat at all, and every muscle on his body looked like it would explode by flexing. His hair was long and reached the middle of his back, with black, blonde, and red running through it, and his eyes were a cross between blue and green. How did you age in there, Naruto? Piccolo inquired. That was my fault. Dora said. He made me stay in the archway so that it wouldn't affect me because I was pregnant at the time, while he rode the storm that was raging inside. I broke the hourglasses that control the time in there, making it where he actually aged. The wish that we don't age for 2 years is nullified for the remaining 3 years until the 2 years in the archway were up, at which point it reset itself, forcing us to endure another 2 years in there. I'm not sure how he survived it, and I was certain that he was going to die a few times. Instead, he endured 5 years in a single day. Bulma replied, so you basically lived 7 years in there, and because of that your son and maid aged 3 years. Dora added, we think it's actually closer to 4, but we can't be for sure. Great-grandchildren, Chi-Chi cried, at last, she said as she hurried to fetch the bewildered Miso. Minato questioned, so how did you both deliver a child? As Chi-Chi lifted him up and began to embrace him like a mother would a cute animal. According to Naruto, thanks to all the lessons and books I read, it was pretty easy, though I think the only thing keeping me from being blasted in the next dimension for the pain she had was the fact I had to catch the baby when he came out. A tear was streaming down Kushina's cheek as she remarked, my baby's all grown up now. Everyone stared at Naruto as he walked over and gave her a hug, saying, I will always be your baby mom, so don't worry, and you can help me and Dora out with Miso and the other. Dora then walked over and slapped him upside the head, saying, you were supposed to keep that a secret. Miso raised his head and inquired, what secret, mom? Miso, you're going to have a little brother or sister soon, Dora said, casting a downward glance. With a downward glance, Vital said, Gohan. After giving her a quick glance, Gohan said, yes, Vital. Vital replied, I meant to tell you that I am pregnant. Everyone turned to look at Pan and Dora when they both said, yes. Minato inquired, why are you both happy about her being pregnant? Gohan replied, because like us they were both from another future, and it turns out that Pan and now Dora is the child Vital is carrying now. I give up, said Minato. Slapping his forehead, I start to doubt my sanity when something new occurs. Just when I think I have everything worked out, are you going to inform me that my wife is pregnant next? When Minato turned to look, everyone was silent. Den then said, actually yes, and it will be a girl. This made everyone turn to face him. Incredulous, Kushina questioned, how do you know that Den? Easy, Den said, the guardian of the earth, or what we should call this planet since it is not Earth, has one of the duties in any case. It is my responsibility to determine the gender and the anticipated arrival date of these adorable babies. I knew this because I had already begun my duties. Minato remarked, so you knew about Miso there? Dend replied, no, actually I never bothered to check in on them, so that was unexpected. So what is going to happen now? Inquired Naruto. Everyone turned to see Omega Goku standing there when a voice said, now the real fun begins. Piccolo questioned, what now, Omega? Gohan, Goku, Bulma, Chi-Chi, Krillin, Marin, 18, Vital, Trunks, Goten. Omega stated for Gohan, each of you will go back to your own world in the first day of high school until his time to return arrives. Goku will return to the other world. Pan questioned, why and what about us? Until they trained Naruto here, I held their world suspended in time. Omega stated together with Minato and Kushina, you Pan, Mirai, and Dora will remain here and assist Naruto in creating the new Saiyan race. Dend and Piccolo together with the others. You two will return to Earth. I have chosen a person who will assist the planet's inhabitants to be its new guardian. Goku inquired, who Omega? I have chosen someone who you all know, Omega declared. Piccolo felt a familiar key signature and tensed, saying, you can't be serious. Everyone turned when an old voice said, I'm afraid he is Piccolo. Piccolo then asked, how are you back, Kami? The elderly Namek Kami stated, Omega here has granted me eternal life until I find a worthy successor and has also asked me to correct this planet to keep them from destroying themselves. With tears in his eyes, Mr. Popo remarked, it's good to see you again, Kami. Kami replied, it's good to see you also, my old friend. Naruto inquired, who are you actually? Kami stated, I am a Namek just like Piccolo and Dend, but I am far older. Dend replied, I hope I have not messed anything up for you, Kami. Kami laughed and replied, don't worry about it, Dend. I think you did a good job in the month you have been here, but it's time for you all to return to Earth and save it. Vital asked, will we ever be able to see them again? As he glanced at Pan and Dora. Omega continued, you won't even remember them. I am sorry, but the changes that have been made here won't affect your world, so nothing will change there and you won't miss them. They will miss you, but they also will not be able to see you since this your world won't exist in this timeline. In other timelines and dimensions the Saiyans were worse than ever. To keep them from being completely destroyed from history, I changed the fate of this universe's Saiyans. Now good luck, Saiyans of the past and Saiyans of the future. You each have lives to live on your own world, and thank you. A golden light suddenly engulfed the sky, and Omega's eyes glowed as he transformed into a golden dragon the next time anyone knew. The only people still on the lookout were Mr. Popo, Pan, Dora, Naruto, Kushina, Minato, Kami, and Mirai. Kami stated, "Listen to me, young Saiyans, you must not tell anyone about me or the lookout. In 1 year I will have you track down the Dragon Balls and return them to me. Here you each must go forth and show the world what the Saiyans are made of. You are all a family now, a clan. A race. You must restrain yourself from senseless killing and petty revenge. Do not use your powers to hurt for fun and try to live a happy life." According to Mirai, "We will." Kami, Naruto inquired, "So what do we do now?" Minato stated, "I say we return to Konoha. They got a war happening and I have a few people I want to show my point of view to." After glancing at Dora, Kushina remarked, "Me, Pan, and Dora will watch Miso to make sure he does not get into trouble." After glancing at Naruto, Minato questioned, "What happened to your hair, Naruto?" "I honestly don't know, it just changed after me and Dora mated," Naruto said after taking a look at it. "Please don't tell me about your sex life," Kushina said. "Where will we live?" Pan inquired. According to Minato, "From Naruto memory my family home still stands, so we will live there." With a look on his face, Naruto asked, "So how should we arrive?" As everyone nodded. Miso remarked, "I think Daddy got that look. Agi and Mommy, does that mean he is going to grab your?" As everyone turned to stare at him. With her hand covering Misa's mouth, Dora gave Naruto a menacing look and remarked, "You just had to tell him our door was always open, didn't you?" Kushina glanced at Minato, and they both started laughing. Miso laughed when Pan sighed and pouted, saying, "It's not fair. Why does everyone else get pregnant before me?" Trunks said, "We could Alwa," but stopped when Pan struck him, causing him to collide with a wall. Everyone gathered the following day for the start of the Chunin exams, with the exception of 2 competitors who had not yet arrived. Naruto and Sasuke were still not there. The announcer breathed a sigh of relief and stated, "Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to the biannual Chunin exam finals being held here in Konoha. Without further delay we will have our first match. Would all contestants but Neji Hyuga and Naruto Uzumaki please leave the ring?" "Naruto Uzumaki, please come to the arena floor," Genma said as everyone was moving about. As a group of people slowly descended from the sky, a voice said, "Here I am." This caused everyone to look up and widen their eyes. 2 of them wore masks to conceal their faces and what appeared to be ABNU clothing. A woman wearing a red shirt and a black scarf on her head, and a man with purple hair and a sword on his back. A woman wearing a red scarf on her head and a black shirt appeared to be identical to the other woman. The final individual, who was 6 feet tall, was ripped like a brick shithouse. As evidenced by his tight shirt, he was wearing a jacket and a sword on his back, but no one could read the jacket because a young boy wearing identical clothing and having the same 3-color hair as the older boy was on his back. With a blink, Genma said, "Who are you?" "I am Mirai Briefs of the Saiyan clan. Naruto here has become a member of our clan and has obtained our bloodline. He is representing us in this affair and not Konoha now. If you will excuse us, we will take us a seat and watch Naruto decimate everyone in this competition," Mirai said as he approached Pan, took his hand, and they both flew up into the air before landing on the roof above the Hokage. The 2 in cloaks followed suit after removing the boy's back. Naruto commanded, "Go to your mother and be a good boy." As he approached Dora, the boy turned to face Naruto and said, "I will, father." They both flew up to join the others. The Hokage, who had witnessed everything, was reflecting on what Enma had said and realized that if they were all Saiyans, bad things were about to happen. "Pardon me, Hokage-sama, but I've never heard of the Saiyan clan," the Kazekage said. "What is their ancestry and who are they?" "I'm not sure what their bloodline is, but I do know that they are extremely powerful," the Hokage said, glancing at him. "That's an understatement, Hokage-sama," said Dora, who had just flown off the roof above the Hokage while sitting with Miso. "It's good to see you again." The Hokage said, "Is that you, Pan?" "Yes, it is Dora now, sir." Dora said, "Let me introduce you to a person. Miso Uzumaki Namikaze is this person." The Kazekage and the third both widened their eyes at that, and Dora remarked, "He's both mine and Naruto's son." The third person inquired, "How? We can train for 2 years in a day," Dora stated. "In the past month, Naruto has been physically training for a little over 16 years. Sir, during those special trainings, we mated, and you get the idea. Miso was able to age here as well because of our unique training." "That is very impressive," the Kazekage remarked. "That is something I have never heard of before." "Now you asked what our bloodline was," Dora said, nodding. "Simply put, we become stronger in a fight the closer we are to death. When our healing powers take over, we become more difficult to kill and gain even more strength. It basically means that there is no limit to what our bodies are capable of. With a body like that I would be invincible," the case cage thought as he considered the situation. Not to mention that we have methods that increase our strength. Dora said, let's say we have enough chakra to create a maximum of 50 shadow clones. That is just raw power. If we use our first multiplier, we can make 100 if we use our second multiplier. We can make 200 if we use our third multiplier. We can make 400 if one of us reaches our fourth multiplier. We can make 800. These also improve speed, agility, and other reflexes. Dora continued, I sure hope that we get a chance to watch Naruto show some of what he can do. As both men's eyes widened and the case cage practically drooled as she leapt back up on the roof with Miso, she said, I would hate to see him just destroy the entire country because he didn't get to fight the Uchiha. One of the masked individuals asked, how did it go, after she had sat down? According to Dora, he took the bait. Kushina. Well, it looks like he's getting ready to start, Kushina said, nodding. Genma waited until everyone had calmed down in the arena before jumping back and declaring, now Naruto Uzumaki versus Neji Hyuga begin. You are destined to lose. Neji said you are nothing to the Hyuga clan, regardless of your weak bloodline or absence of a clan name. Naruto replied, fate this, fate that, fate fucked you over today Uchiha. Oops, I am sorry. The Hyuga are below the Uchihas in Konoha pecking order, so I guess that makes you a Hitaki. At that moment, Ebus, Jiraiya, and the third person all thought the same thing. You really fucked up, Kakashi. With a blink, Neji said, you will pay for insulting the honor of the Hyuga clan. Honor? What honor does a group of inbreeders have? Snorted Naruto. You only have a bloodline, as far as I can tell, because of a birth defect. This made everyone laugh, with the exception of the Hyuga, and Neji remarked, you will die for this. Everyone was stunned by the explosion, and Naruto smirked as he put both of his hands by his side with the palms up and had energy forming in both hands as he said, dodge these. Naruto held up his hand and said, I doubt it. He then fired a ki blast at Neji, who had moved out of the way and watched it sail past until it struck a tree and blew the tree to hell and back. Now tell me, Neji, was it fate that decided you would lose to me, or was it your Icha Paradise, Hyuga edition that told you that bullshit? Asked Naruto after Neji initially believed he was avoiding them but soon realized they were all stopping and floating around him, forcing him to stop since he had nowhere else to go. According to Neji, I have not lost today. Then let's see if you can see better being blind, Naruto said, placing his hands on the side of his face as he began to float into the air, causing everyone to follow him. Solar flare and dazzling light engulfed the whole space. When Neji hit the first ki ball, it exploded, sending him into another, and another, and another. This continued for several minutes until he passed out, and Naruto saw this because he closed his eyes and used his mind to send the ki balls into the air and explode, making it look like fireworks. Neji screamed out in pain while holding his eyes, and several others were staring at Naruto. Neji appeared to have burns all over his body, and Naruto was seen staring at his fingernails as if he was bored as everyone's vision began to clear up with spots once more. He should be all right in about a month, Naruto said. Could I please have the next contestant since my opponent is no longer able to fight? As Genma put it, winner Naruto Uzumaki. Ignoring the few applause he received, Naruto floated up to the others, sat down, and asked, so how did I do? Mirai replied, that was cool, but you could have used something more powerful than a weak ki controller shot. With a simple nod, Naruto grabbed Miso from Dora and held him in his lap. As everyone in the stands gazed up at Naruto and the newly arrived guests, Ino turned to Sakura and questioned, what the hell happened to Naruto's forehead? He looks so different and powerful. As Neji was being removed from the field, Kiba turned to face him and remarked, I got lucky in my match against him. According to Sakura, he will never be able to beat Sasuke-kun. The others in her immediate vicinity gave her a, are you crazy? Look. As the Hokage turned to face Naruto, who was 10 feet above them, he remarked, you went a little overboard, Naruto. The case cage was essentially drooling at the power show he had just witnessed. Not really, just wait until I face Sasuke or Gaara, Naruto said, bending over and glancing between his legs at the Hokage. Perhaps one of them will resist and refrain from talking so much. According to the Hokage, you changed Naruto. As he got back up, Naruto remarked, really, I thought I acted just like my mom and dad when they found out how the village treated me. What are you talking about, Naruto? Inquired the third. Ignoring the shocked expressions of the case cage and Hokage, the two masked individuals knelt down, removed their masks, and said, surprise Hokage-sama. Then, they put their masks back on. What the hell? The case cage thought the Yondaimes have returned to life. My plans are ruined. If he is present, how in the hell can he be alive? After Kankuro's defeat by Damari, Everyone in the arena waited impatiently for Sasuke to arrive. When the allotted 10 minutes had passed and the Naruto fight had only lasted roughly 4 minutes, the proctor finally declared, since Sasuke Uchiha has not shown up, he is disqualified. For the upcoming match, could Temari and Naruto please step aside? I forfeit. Temari yells, refusing to engage in combat with Naruto. With a sigh, Genma declared, Naruto Uzumaki won the exam's last match is about to start. A whirl of leaves suddenly materialized, followed by Sasuke and Kakashi, who said, sorry, we were late. According to Genma, your student was disqualified. However, Sasuke stated, but I am Uchiha. Hey old man, let me have an exhibition match with him. A loud voice said he can replace me in the finals if he wins. Kakashi looked up and asked, who are they? While Sasuke looked up at Naruto, who was still seated with his new family. I don't think we should, the Kazekage said as he considered not wanting to risk losing the Sharingan. He reflected, the Uchiha did lose by not being here on time. Are you sure, Naruto? The Hokage inquired. Naruto replied, remember old man, I win, I get free rights to come and go anytime I want from this village, so if you want me to stay you need to find a strong opponent who might beat me. With a grin on his face. Miso replied, Daddy, can I beat up the weakling in the ring? Naruto was thinking and saying, hey old man, let my son here fight Sasuke, and if Sasuke wins it will count as a win against me. Sasuke replied, like a pathetic kid like that boy could beat me, and what do you mean your son? Sorry, I don't speak emo, Naruto said, sounding bored. Are you sure, Naruto? The Hokage asked, your son might suffer harm? After snickering, Naruto laughs and responds, no, he won't. When will we have a match? My son is strong enough to take on Kakashi, Sasuke, and Orochimaru. Everyone was asking themselves, is he crazy? The third individual replied, very well, but it is your responsibility if he gets hurt. You heard him, Miso. Go make daddy proud, Naruto said, nodding. Everyone began to perspire when Miso leapt to his feet and exclaimed, alright, I'm going to kick some ass. Believe it? He then leapt off the roof and began to fall toward the ground, causing many to scream and cover their eyes in fear that the child would die. To everyone's surprise, he flipped in midair and landed softly on the ground. Kakashi, please leave the floor, Genma said after clearing his throat. Is this really going to happen? I mean Sasuke going to kill this kid? Kakashi asked after glancing at Miso. Miso replied, are you the guy Grandpa is going to kill after the exams? Kakashi looked at the child and blinked, asking, what? Why yes? A voice that sent shivers down Kakashi's spine, prompting him to search for that voice. Okay Grandpa, I won't hurt him then, Miso said, looking up to see where Naruto was. Genma asked, what is your name, kid? As everyone started to perspire. Miso replied, my name is Miso Uzumaki Namikaze and I am going to send you to the next dimension. Mirai said, you spent too much time with my dad in the time chamber, Naruto. As she gazed up at him from the top of the building, you two behave too much like him. Pan replied, don't be like that Mirai, I am sure that he is just excited about getting to beat someone weaker than him finally. Speaking loudly, Naruto declared, I got $100 million, says my son totally humiliates the Uchiha. After examining him, a number of people declared they would place that wager. Okay. The match between Sasuke Uchiha and Miso Namikaze shall now begin, Genma said as he watched Kakashi leave the arena while searching everywhere for the voice. As he assumed a stance, Sasuke declared, I will beat you without even needing my Sharingan. Miso entered one as well and asked, how does it feel? With a blink, Sasuke questioned, what are you going on about? Several people laughed when Miso said, to talk out your ass since your head looks like a chicken's ass. When Sasuke lost his temper, he charged Miso, who was about 4 feet tall and had several different colors of hair. Miso charged forward as well, blocking the punch that Sasuke threw and sending one of his own right into Sasuke's stomach, sending him backwards into the wall 40 feet away, leaving everyone wide-eyed. In an attempt to catch his breath, Sasuke coughed up some blood. He then slowly got to his feet and activated his Sharingan while staring at the child and wondering, what the hell just happened? Nearly everyone was thinking the same things. Is that all you have, chicken ass? Asked Miso. He took a blindfold out of his pocket and covered his eyes with it, saying, I'll make this sporting? After that, Miso assumed a fighting stance and made a hand gesture while yelling, come. Miso essentially took a stroll through the park, moving his head to avoid every blow as Sasuke became enraged and charged again. When he saw that people were laughing at him, Sasuke became enraged and jumped back while making hand signals. He then yelled, "Fire style! Phoenix Fireball Jutsu!" and fired 20 balls of fire at Miso. Miso remained motionless, waiting until they were nearly at him before he swung each fireball into the air with his hands. When Sasuke's eyes widened, Miso grabbed his blindfold and asked, "Is that all you got?" before removing it and saying, "My daddy is much stronger than you." I suppose his statement that you were nothing more than a weakling was accurate. When Sasuke began to make hand signs, Kakashi said, "Sasuke, stop, you're going to kill that kid." Sasuke performed a backflip, landing on the wall before sprinting up it and stopping. When Miso noticed the lightning forming, he began to laugh and then rolled on the ground, saying, "That's it? You are only as strong as that. I'm happy that daddy got mommy to train him. If that's how strong you are after training under the cycloptic pervert, you're pitiful." With the Chidori in hand, Sasuke ran as fast as he could down the wall. Miso, who appeared bored, waited until Sasuke was nearly two before briefly vanishing and then putting his elbow in Sasuke's stomach, sending him crashing back into the wall. As the curse seal began to spread over Miso's body, Sasuke looked at him and said, "I will end not be defeated." Miso was trying to get up but was unable to do so. When Miso noticed this, he looked up at Naruto and said, "Daddy, may I use it?" Naruto replied, "Okay, but not Aegean until you can control it without trouble." Miso nods as he lets his tail hang out from around his waist, startling a lot of people and making some whisper demons. He then launches the ball of energy in his hand into the air and utters the words, "Moonlight explosion." A ball of energy bursts into the air, giving the appearance of a full moon, and Miso collapses to all four. His features begin to change slightly, and he begins to grow taller and hairier before assuming his true Saiyan ape form. The third thought, "What the hell is this?" as people screamed. With wide eyes, Miso turned to face Sasuke, who exclaimed, "Time to play patty cake." "They don't pay me enough for this job," Genma thought as she leapt out of the ring. Then, ironically given the appearance of his head, Miso attempted to grab Sasuke, who was running like a chicken with his head chopped off after evading several paws in an attempt to reach him. Sasuke finally runs at Miso with it, who swats him against the wall with his tail, and Miso grabs Sasuke with both hands before saying, I wonder what you taste like." To everyone's surprise, he then puts Sasuke in his mouth. Miso remarked, "You taste nasty," as he spat Sasuke out after a few seconds, using enough force to send him into the arena stands. "I'm hungry. Daddy, would you mind getting us some ramen? I have to clean my mouth." Gazing up at the ball of moon energy, Naruto launched a ki blast at it, causing it to burst. Miso begins to gradually regain his childlike appearance, and because his clothing is still made of Saiyan body armor, it still covers him. "You did good, son." Naruto lands next to their son after jumping down with Dora by his side and giving him a hug. Dora replied, "Come on Miso, mommy will make you some ramen after daddy wins his fight." With a shout of delight, Miso grabs his mother's hand. With a glance at Genma, Naruto asks, "So did he win?" With a clear throw, Genma declared, "Winner Miso Namikaze." The third asked, "What was that, Minato?" as he glanced up at the two ABNU, who he now recognized as Minato and Kushina. According to Minato, Saiyans have the ability to change into apes, just like Miso, when they see a real or fake full moon, but unless we're aiming for Super Saiyan 4, we won't change into our ape form once we reach the Super Saiyan stage because we don't have to. None of us changed like Miso did. It becomes up to us to decide whether or not to change. So it's basically a version of the Akamichi family jutsu except you turn into apes, the third person said after considering the situation. According to Minato, something like that, yes. "Where is this clan from and how did you get the bloodline Yondaimessen?" inquired the Kazekage. "That Kazekage is a family secret, sorry," Minato said. Narrowing his eyes, the Kazekage remained silent. Kakashi, who was in the stands, was staring at Sasuke with wide eyes. In addition to losing, Sasuke was given his ass by a small child who literally spit him out after chewing him up. Sakura asked, "What kind of monster is that child?" while glancing at Sasuke. When Dora chose to examine Sasuke more closely in order to congratulate her son, she made everyone turn to stare at her when she said, "A bloodline limit, what else?" Kakashi inquired, "Who are you?" Everyone gasped when Dora said, "I'm Dora Namikaze, Naruto wife." Hinata passed out. With a laugh, Kakashi remarked, "Nice joke, but who are you really?" "It's true, you stupid son of a bitch," said a voice behind Kakashi, causing him to widen his eyes. "What the devil were you doing while my son was fighting for his life from this abhorrent village? I told you never to use that jutsu again." and now I see that you not only used it, but also gave it to someone who is mentally incapable of using it properly. As everyone turned and saw an Anbu taking off his mask to reveal the Yondaime Hokage of Konoha, they said, jacking off to the Yoi version of Icha Icha Paradise. Kakashi was about to speak when he was struck in the stomach and knocked to the ground. Glancing up, he saw Minato reaching for him. He grabbed Kakashi's arm and threw him into the air, saying, "If you want to be with Obito and Rin so bad, then I will be glad to send you to them in the next dimension." Ka-me-ha-me-ha. Minato then clasped his hands together and yelled a lengthy string of energy at the now airborne Kakashi, who experienced a sudden flashback. Rewind. He's right, you know, or he used to be. Ebu said, I initially thought he was a demon, but after witnessing his transformation of Konohamaru, I came to the conclusion that he is not. As he turned a page in his book and turned to leave, Kakashi said, I will make it up to him later. As he left, Ebus remarked, somehow I doubt you will get the chance to Kakashi. The end of the flashback, I'm sorry, was Kakashi's final thought before his body was reduced to dust. With the exception of the other Saiyans, everyone stared at the Yondaime in terror. Stuttering, Sakura asked, why did you do that? You know, I've wanted to do something for a long time, but I've never been able to do it before. Dora said, go with your grandfather, Miso. Miso approached Minato and said, okay mom. Dora approached Sakura slowly, who appeared frightened and began to retreat, and asked, what are you going to do? As she grabbed Sakura's arm and made her scream in an attempt to free herself, Dora said, I'm going to send you somewhere you should feel right at home. Dora then put her fingers to Sakura's head, and the two girls vanished. While yelling, Sakura found herself in a fountain confused. She looked around and asked Dora, where the hell are we, bitch? Welcome to your home for eternity, the home for infinite losers, said Dora. She put her fingers to her head once more and vanished, saying, tell everyone that you're with the Saiyans, and they'll take good care of you. Sakura turned around and went pale when she heard a raspy voice ask, what do we have here? She saw a creature that looked like a lizard staring at her with its arms crossed. Squeaking out, Sakura said, I'm with the Saiyans. Before charging Sakura and beginning to beat her down before others arrived to continue, the lizard's eyes widened momentarily as a smile appeared on its face and it said, I'm Frieza and I will take good care of you. Her cries reverberated throughout the HFIL for the next 1,000 years. When Dora reappeared where she had vanished, Ino questioned, what did you do with Sakura? Dora glanced at her and said, don't worry Ino, I sent her to the home for infinite losers where other loser will watch over her for the rest of her days. Why? Ino inquired as she moved away and, accidentally, stepped on Sasuke's nuts, crushing them even though he was still unconscious from the beating. Dora remarked, it's for the way she treated my husband. Now if you will excuse me, I want to see my husband win his fight. After giving his selected body a critical glance, the Kazekage gestured to one of his guards and muttered, cancel the attack. The guard nods before vanishing in a gust of wind. Genma said, would Gaara please come to the arena floor? After the ABNU had calmed everyone down. Gaara appeared in the arena using Sand Shushin, staring at Naruto like a deranged murderer, and uttered the words, Mother wants your blood. Hey Proctor, do we have to pay for collateral damage? Asked Naruto, who appeared bored. According to Genma, no. Why? Then when you start the match, get the hell out of Konoha, Naruto said, glancing at Gaara. Genma shivered and questioned, why? Naruto closed his eyes and said, trust me. A sudden breeze began to blow through the arena just as Genma was about to begin the match. The ground began to bounce with tiny pebbles when Naruto opened his eyes. His hair began to stand up more spiky and wave in the wind as lightning began to bounce off his skin and onto the ground. The various colors began to glow. Everyone became anxious as the stadium began to vibrate as Naruto began to scream. His hair turned a vivid blonde and his eyes turned from blue to teal. Everyone's attention was on him as his muscles appeared to protrude and he appeared to be growing stronger as the ground began to tremble even more due to the wind. The clouds in the sky had begun to move quickly in a circle. What is going on? The third asked in a panicked tone. As the arena floor was covered in dust from an explosion, Mirai, who had remained on the roof, remarked, behold a Super Saiyan, only level 1 though. When the dust was sufficiently clear to see, waves of an odd energy were seen bouncing off Naruto. Genma shushined to the stands and said, let the final match begin. Naruto struck Gaara with enough force to knock him into the wall 300 feet away and knock him unconscious, moving faster than anyone could see. Gaara's eyes were closed as his body began to become covered in sand and he began to slowly stand up. He was totally engrossed in the sand as it continued to form until it created a 75-foot tall Shukaku, who opened his eyes and exclaimed, I am free, it's time to pee. Any words he might have spoken were silenced when Naruto's ki blast blew his mouth away. "You got time to talk, you got time to fight," Naruto said as he slowly got up from the ground. He held his hand above his head, and an energy disc materialized above it. He said, "Destructo disc," and sent it toward Shukaku, severing his left arm. Everyone was both frightened and thrilled by what they witnessed. With a cry of agony, Shukuka uttered, "You will pay for this, boy." When Naruto noticed Gaara dozing off on top of Shukaku's head, he remarked, "You know, I wonder what would happen if I killed that kid on your head." Shukaku's eyes widened, and Naruto clasped his hands together. Then, just like his father, he said, "Kami?" Shukaku grabbed his arm and swung it in an attempt to strike Naruto, who ducked and said, "Hami." Shukaku launched an air blast at Naruto, who vanished at the last second. His voice then uttered the words, "Ha!" before a Kamehameha wave blasted through Shukaku's body, killing Gaara in the process. The sand that created the now halved Shukaku crumbled and dropped to the floor. Naruto asked, surveying his surroundings, "Is that it?" Everyone sat with their mouths hanging open. No one believed what they had witnessed. "Thank you all for coming today, IW," said the third Hokage as he got up and moved to the front, glancing at Naruto. Mirai replied, "One moment, Hokage-sama, there is one other opponent for the exams." "What are you talking about?" the Hokage asked, glancing at him. Mirai looked at the cage and remarked, "Well, the battle between a Saiyan and a Sannin. Of course, we just happen to have a Sannin here with us after all, isn't that right, Orochimaru?" "I don't know what you're talking about," the cage remarked. As he vanished, Mirai said, "Really? Then I'm sorry for this." He then reappeared in front of Orochimaru, his sword drawn. Moving at a speed that no one could see, he then halted, threw his sword into the air, letting it fall to the sheath on his back before clicking. The attack stunned everyone, and even though it missed, the cage's body shifted and fell to the ground in 30 pieces the instant the sword clicked. When Mirai picked up the head and pulled the face away, revealing Orochimaru's head to everyone, Temari and Kankuro screamed, "Father!" They both prepared to attack, but Mirai threw the head, blasting it with ki and blowing it up. "That was pathetic." Mirai remarked, "Well, if that's all, Hokage-sama, given that Naruto defeated all of his opponents, we will take out leave," as the Hokage gaped openly. The Hokage said, "Wait, you can't leave," as he opened his mouth wide. As he raised his hand, gathered energy, and launched a blast at the Uchiha distraction, destroying every building in the area, Naruto uttered the words, "Really, who's going to stop me?" After changing out of his ABNU clothes and putting on his Hokage clothes, Minato left the area where he had vanished and flew up into the air next to Naruto. They all nodded at each other, and Naruto remarked, "Konoha, you have treated me like shit and acted like I was the Kyuubi for 13 years. I haven't killed anyone in 13 years, until today. I'm leaving Konoha with my family today, so you won't see us again. That may seem like a good thing to you, but you're mistaken." As he gazed up at the sky where Kami, the green Namek, was gradually falling to the Saiyans, he said, "You are right, Naruto. You see, I now have Kami on my side, isn't that right, Kami? I will now tell the Konoha people their punishment for the way they have treated you. Anyone who has ever harmed you will be sent to the home for infinite losers, where they will be tormented by actual demons for all eternity. Additionally, their families will vanish unless they were among the select few who were kind to you and treated you like a human being rather than a demon. All of their family members will now become sterile, meaning they will never have another child. Any children they do have will also become sterile. Only about 30 people in Konoha, in my opinion, will ever have a family, that is, if they find someone who is also kind to them. Konoha's sins have now come back to haunt them. Enjoy your day," he said, floating back into the sky. Nodding, Naruto uttered, "One more thing before I leave." Then he joined his hands, and around 30 shadow clones materialized. They all joined arms with Naruto to stay in the air, dropped their pants, and literally urinated on everyone in the stands while spinning, giving the impression that it was a long blade. After finishing, he pulled his pants up, stopped the shadow clones, and said, "I'm hungry, let's go home." They all took off for the lookout. The Saiyans lived on the dead world and only returned to the normal world when Kami needed them or when the children went out into the world to become stronger and wiser and to find mates. They essentially took the idea of a young Goku in DB, but they did not have to find the Dragon's Balls because their parents had already found them. Konoha lost the greatest treasure they had ever had on that day. Over the next 100 years, Miso, Anko, and Uden, the children of Naruto and Dora, went out and found themselves mates, each of whom had at least 3 children. In remembrance of their esteemed family members, Mirai and Pan had little Goku and Vegeta, who both behaved similarly to Naruto and Dora's kids when they were old enough. they entered the shinobi world, learned, and made friends. Kushina and Minato had a daughter named Ayali and another son named Arashi. It was decided that they would follow the new Saiyan tradition. It took the original 7 children born under the new Saiyan ideology only a few years to accept the idea of protection was better than using their power to rule. They passed their teachings down to their children and so on and so forth. In nearly 1,000 years the hidden ninja villages had all ceased to exist. The world became more like the Earth of the future as the Saiyans would bring on new trinket from the dead world to the Gaiden world to advance them, and so technology flourished. The idea of chakra were soon forgotten and the popol seemed to become an ideal society. However, as all good things, the ambitions of people caused trouble and soon a war erupted on the planet of Gaiden. The ninja world. It was at this time the 700 Saiyans that had been born and bred took their place as protectors and ended the war, stopping those responsible and then bringing true peace to the planet. The people soon went to other planets and brought peace and protection to them until the Saiyans were known as the protector of the galaxy. As more people arrived, Naruto and his family would be beaming as they spoke about the honor and glory their descendants had brought to their people.